What makes a loop game, and why do we choose to be Sisyphus? Do we really enjoy never-ending repetition when it comes to these types of games? Games that are stuck in a loop remind me of the story of Sisyphus, but isn't Sisyphus' story about a never-ending punishment? Yet we choose to do it for our leisure when we log into these types of repetitive loop-type games. What makes us play a game again and again? And why are the majority of the most popular games designed to be played over and over in an endless loop with no real progress or tangible reward? Yet we play these games anyway. Why? Why do we play games that are stuck in a never-ending loop? We all know the story of Sisyphus. If you don't, here's a quick recap. Sisyphus was a deceitful king who tricked the gods out of death. Because of this, he was punished with a single eternal task of rolling a boulder up a hill, only to watch it roll back down before reaching the top. A task that will never end, a goal that will always stay out of reach, destined to do over and over for eternity. Punishment many would consider soul-destroying, never being able to complete a task, and if so, is only rewarded by having to do it again. As gamers, many of us choose to play games just like the metaphorical story of Sisyphus. The difference is, instead of a punishment, we do it for pleasure, for fun. We choose to go another round, to press restart, to load into a lobby again and again. We play games with no definitive ending. A game that loops over and over, stuck in a digital Groundhog Day. Why is this? What is so compelling about a game even though it has no conclusion? No real reward apart from finishing the task, only to be rewarded with restarting back at the beginning again to do it all over again. I want to know why we play loop games. I want to know what's so enjoyable about them. And why do we volunteer to become Sisyphus? What makes a loop game? When I think about a game stuck in a loop, repeating gameplay, task or goal, I instantly think of competitive shooters. Games that have rounds, half times, laps, a wipe, a reset, or objective that you do again and again, be it get to a ball or a goal, or wiping the opponent team, to being the last survivor. Games that many of us play and spend our leisurely time on, even sinking money and exorbitant amounts of time into. So what makes a game loop, and what is its main component? What is the appeal that makes us constantly play a game designed like the life and punishment of Sisyphus? For a game to be fair Sisyphus game, there has to be no advantage each time the game is reset, an equal playing field. Otherwise there's progression, and in turn can't be considered a reset when it comes to a competitive game. Now where this is tricky is what time frame determines a reset to be fair. Is it minutes, hours, days or months? For the sake of argument, I would determine a fair reset to be every time you log on or start up a new game. An equal playing field means no advantages when the game begins. So no permanent tree skill unlock. You can't have better gear or weapons or starting points in the game. It needs to be consistent or completely random. No favorites or privilege. A game like Escape from Tarkov I would consider to be a game with progress in a story, and therefore isn't stuck in a fair loop system. But the idea of a forced or voluntary wipe does make the game feel like Sisyphus. Also, can you have a loop mechanic with progress? Not all games are competitive. Outer Worlds comes to mind. This game, I would argue, is a loop game, but once you finish it, there is no more incentive to keep playing. So again, is it really a Sisyphus game? So we have softly established a game that is stuck in a loop mechanic, and now we are just arguing about fair loop mechanics when it comes to competition. Playing any game regardless always gives advantages to the more knowledgeable player. Like anything in life, be it chess to knowing how to get the best deal at a fast food drive-thru. Something outside of design game mechanics, knowledge and experience is king and can't be factored into fairness of a game reset. If you are playing a single player game or online with other players, everyone needs to have the same goal or task. If Sisyphus had only one task, roll the boulder up a hill, then if his task changed to writing a novel one day, then learning a new language the next, and then running a marathon, this isn't a loop. So each player has to have a single goal or an overarching main goal. This can be anything just as long as the outcome, goal or task is unified and consistent. So we've established what according to us is a loop Sisyphus game. And thinking about it, these types of games sound fair, diplomatic and appealing to new players when it comes to the competitive space. Because veterans start exactly where new players come, every round, match or wipe. But if every round and match or wipe is exactly the same, there is no progress, reward or lasting outcome. Why would I choose to do something over and over again? Yet looking at the most popular and free games out there, many people choose to play games that resemble Sisyphus's punishment and torture. So what is the appeal? What could make these games with the exact same play through every time feel novel enough to keep coming back to? Where is the dopamine, the sense of accomplishment, the drive, the reason to keep going, to keep grinding and playing again and again, even though once you finish, you start right back where you began, like everyone else. Another factor of these games is that you always restart, so you lose everything. You all start with the same equal playing field. The only thing that might change or you miss out on are skins, that are, for the most part, online games is purely aesthetic and don't give the player any advantage. Many of these types of games are predominantly played online with others in competition, PvP. Online games can be played anywhere by anyone. They are accessible and normally have a large player base, meaning there's always someone playing, someone ready to be challenged directly. We humans love competition, and there is nothing more challenging and satisfying than playing against someone and beating them. That alone is enough of a reason to play a game. Hell, it's the very definition of the word game. There is nothing better than turning on a game, starting a match and having no waiting time to face someone in a match. Nothing better than playing a stranger or a friend halfway across the world and having the opportunity to beat them. And online games give us that. Many simple single task games are just so easy to load up, drop in and play for a couple of minutes or hours of free time. No need to understand the game lore or have to watch a tutorial just to understand the new characters, gears or map. Many Sisyphus type games are single focus, meaning they are easy to play a couple of rounds, be it once a day, month, or it could be an entire year or more before you get back on. Regardless, the last time you played is close to or exactly how you left it. Not all games that loop require competition. Simulator games let people play when they want for as long as they want. Be it jumping into a DCS world and playing around in a hog for a bit and dropping bombs, playing a round of golf against the game itself. Sisyphus games are, for the most part, just so easy to start up and get lost in. When it comes to loot games, they don't seem to require commitment in terms of playtime. Sure, to master any game that is highly competitive, you need to spend time learning and mastering it. But to just play, to join, to finish a round, a lap or a match doesn't require large time commitment, or even a schedule to join in with all of your friends. When there are so many strangers available to join a match, Call of Duty or Battlefield team matches or even battle royales only require 10 to 30 minutes. A single match in CSGO is just around 2 minutes. Fortnite, 20 minutes. A FIFA match, 20 to 15 minutes. Street Fighter, 5 minutes. That is not to say there aren't other games that don't have exorbitant long playtimes, like a 48-hour virtual race or a lane competition. But for the average player just logging on in the evening, we for the most part can all spare about 15-20 minutes to play around a game and have some fun. Warzone, Fortnite, Battlefield, any battle royale. The only goal is to be the last survivor. A 5v5 competitive shooter, be the last surviving team, run out the clock or defuse the bomb. Racing games, finish first. Sports, get the highest score than the opposing team or player. Fighting games, beat your opponent. Get to the finish line, build, fly, shoot, steal, collect. Whatever the goal is, the rules stay consistent. The goal never changes, the task always stays the same. Loot games are reliable. They become classics, GOATs, the OGs of their genre. And if there is any change, no matter how minor that changes, the player base will let the developers know their voice and displeasure. Because that is why we play Sisyphus games. Because when we come back, we want to be reassured that the boulder is still there and it hasn't got smaller or bigger or changed the settings. How we don't even want the hill to be easier to climb. We play these games because they're simplistic, they're consistent, and knowing and understanding that everyone is playing by the same rules. Every game has rules, structure, a stage, a goal, task to be done. Games that resemble Sisyphus' existence have simple rules, a single task to win, to be the victor, to solve the puzzle, to winning the match. This is not to say there aren't outliers. When it comes to loot games and tasks, the rules are easy to follow, to the point where most of these games don't even require a tutorial level or a manual to play. They are simple, easy to understand, to the point where you can be, unaware of any of the tasks or thing. You can just follow a teammate or ask someone in chat or over Teams comms how to play. Take CSGO, a 5v5 competitive shooter, 2-minute rounds. Each round you either have to plant the bomb or avoid the bomb being blown up at its designated site on the map, or eliminate the opponent team before the bomb is placed. Very simple rules, attack or defend. How you go about playing each round is up to you, and here is where within the rules each round feels completely different while also constrained within these rules mentioned earlier. There are loot games out there that are purely building games, aesthetic games, where all you need is your own creativity. There is no story or goal, just you, the world, and some elements to build within. Like Minecraft, Towerscape, Tiny Glade, Dystopia. These games don't have a goal, no time limit, no opponent. It's just you and the game and an endless creativity within the game mechanics. Are these loop games? To a point. There is no restart that is forced upon the player. Like a box of digital Lego or Technica, you can choose how you interact with it and how much time time you dedicate to building within it. Endless possibilities within the constraints of the game. Like any Sisyphus game, there are only a few simple rules: to build and to have fun. If a game is the same every time you log on, every round starts the same, and the only variant is human input on where to go with a character or what move to do next, a game for the majority becomes stale, boring, and repetitive. So how does a game designer, or should I say board member, keep it interesting and profitable? Digital gambling, baby. Gambling is where you spend a currency on an item in-game where you don't know the outcome, or there is a chance to win or receive something of less or more value. In games that don't give you a competitive advantage, that item is generally cosmetic. Most players and game developers despise this seedy practice where others don't. Board members and stockholders. So there are other ways to keep a game fresh. Introducing new characters one can select, new or altering maps or a map roster, like a fast food seasonal menu, looking at you, pumpkin spice, new weapon types, or just changing different types of aesthetics you can win. It can even be a wipe or a reset of the leaderboard or a tournament. Whatever the change is, it's normally one thing or minor changes overall that is needed to keep the game fresh when it is stuck in an endless loop of Sisyphus's existence. Why do humans enjoy doing the same thing over and over again? This one is a hard one for me to answer. I recently started playing Street Fighter 6. The last Street Fighter I played was Alpha 3, where you had to be in person to fight another opponent apart from the arcade story mode. So coming back to this game, I knew the move and most of the characters. I could jump straight into playing it again, straight into an arcade mode. Before I knew it, I had won the game straight away, something I thought would have been a little bit more difficult. Then the other day, I was humbled playing online when I faced another player in ranked matches. Working towards my rank, I got up to bronze. But something happened. I wasn't discouraged, rather compelled to improve, to get better, to master my chosen character, Akuma, and to fight my way up into ranks from rookie. How did this game that I wasn't invested in suddenly make me want to get better, to learn and to evolve? Not for any external reward, but for my own self-improvement, my own gratification. So how did this happen? How did I voluntarily want to continue to emulate Sisyphus' struggle? And doing so, I was enjoying it. This is why we play loop Sisyphus type games. They give us the opportunity to better ourselves, to have a goal, a reason, regardless of the reset mechanics of the game. We want to play again to see where we stand. Because even if what we want is something trivial, like an in-game item, rank, badge, or end title saying you won, it's obtainable and it isn't banal to us. The only thing it requires is for us to play it again, to improve each time. And with the dedication to play again and again, we can see progress. And that in itself is satisfying. We need a goal, a reason to get up, to continue beyond natural drives like eating, sleeping, and procreation. For us to desire to want to do something that has no benefit to ourselves, then we need to receive something from that action. We need reason. We work jobs we hate for money so we can have a roof over our head, to put food on the table. But playing a game, there is no external benefit to playing a game. A reason could be anything from wanting to know the story, experiencing the game itself, or it could be for dopamine or joy or fear. Anything can be a reason as long as you give that reason substance. So playing a free game over and over again might be your only form of entertainment you enjoy. It could be that you like interacting with others that play the game. It could be because you like the soundtrack. Whatever it is, the reason you play games over and over again is because it gives you something. It rewards you internally and intrinsically. Even if a game is hard and makes us angry and frustrated, for some of us, we still choose to play that game again out of habit or because there is nothing else that interests or drives us as strongly as that game. This is why some people choose games over people, games over TV, games over working out. We get more from the game. The game is easier than other options, good or bad. There is something about loading into a game and living out a fantasy, playing in a fantasy world where magic or creatures, technology beyond reality are possible. And then there are some of us where getting into a fighter jet or just getting into a driver's seat of a rally car does just the same. Simulator games fulfill a fantasy, a possibility we can experience virtually. To some it might look boring or a dad game, but for that person it's true bliss. For me, I can't not play flight sims or rally sims. I will never be able to get into the cockpit of an F-16C, as we don't have them in our country, and I can't afford to take flight lessons, but I can afford to buy a joystick and download a flight sim, and get as close as possible to the real experience. And to have that virtual opportunity to fly a $34 million jet or get into a driver's seat of a $1 million WRC car and not worry about hitting a tree on the first corner, these games don't have any goal apart from playing them. Do a lap, take off on a runway, that's about it. But doing just that is enough if it's a fantasy you can fulfill. Doing it again and again is the joy itself, the experience, the reason we play these games again and again. No other incentive is needed. A lot of these points aren't only subjected to loop games. I could say the same thing about any game, which means this isn't a single pull to playing these types of games other than you have the opportunity to do something you can't do in real life, like fly a plane, drive a rally car. Playing with friends, enjoying some competition can be achieved with most games, but again, this doesn't mean it has to be a loop Sisyphus game. I would argue that all games have a loop mechanic in them, be it getting more ammo, collecting currency, fighting enemies, jumping, climbing. All games have a loop, a task that you have to do over and over again. The difference is that games that aren't tied to a torture of Sisyphus have other aspects of their games that are appealing, like exploration, boss fights, progress stats, ability unlocks, rewards that help the character, or a linear story. And who doesn't want to have their cake and eat it too, and know that each bite isn't going to be the same cake over and over again for eternity? There are games that have a loop mechanic that is part of the story, the gameplay, games with multiple endings and outcomes, and the idea of the game is to find as many as you desire. Games like the Stanley Parable is a single player narrative walking sim, but the catch to the game is no matter how many times you play it, you end up at the start again and again, even if you think you finished it. Because there are so many endings to the game, games like Slay the Princess, Refine Myself, are games where your choices change, not only your character, but the ending and the outcome of the game. Games that have a Groundhog Day mechanic built in, ask the player to play it again and again, encouraging a restart to see what else you can find. There are countless games that have a narrative story and a free to play or quick start version of their games. Think Call of Duty having a campaign element, but also having a team-based online competitive shooter mechanic, or any other countless Warhammer or Age of Empire franchise games. We all know what I'm gonna say here. Modern narrative games seem to have them now. Fetch quests. Get a task, go to a location, collect something, come back to the task giver and complete the quest. Rinse, repeat. Now I'm not saying these are good assignments, but most modern games have this kind of mechanic in them. And I would argue that this type of venture, even if the task is different, the mechanics of go here, collect, come back is a loop mechanic. I would argue that money is a loop mechanic in the real world and in games. Collect, spend over and over again. Something that is repeatable is a loop. Eating, sleeping, saving, walking forward. Where do we draw the line when it comes to repeating a task? When does it become Sisyphus and when does it just become day to day? In saying that, can't every single game you play be considered a loop game because the gameplay is so similar and repeatable even though it's not truly identical? There are games that are open-ended that you can keep playing after you've finished the game. Does this count as a Sisyphus game? Or just the fact that you have already reached the end of a game discount the game's replayability? You have the ability to press the restart button even though you have already finished this linear type game. Being a game, you always have the option to play it again. Does this not represent Sisyphus' reality? I would say that any and all live service games want you to keep playing the game forever so they can get as much money from you and keep you incentive to play. So the question is, when do you stop playing a game and put it away or leave it in your games library never to install it again? And what does it mean to replay, to restart, when all games have this ability in the start menu to press play again? Some people hate doing the same thing over and over again. We play games to escape, to take us on a journey, to experience something new, to play, learn, embrace, a challenge, or to just unwind and escape. And for some, playing a game within a goal, task, story, or purpose sounds stupid, boring, and a waste of time. I want to live through a character in a post-apocalyptic world where zombies are real. I want to fly in a spaceship and see a planet no one else has seen before. I want to level up my character into godlike powers and abilities. Starting every round, race, battle from the beginning again without progress sounds deflating, like watching paint dry, but it never does. And games that never change, that are always the same, isn't for everyone. And for a few, wouldn't be considered fun at all. Sure, you could argue that Sisyphus games are never truly the same because you are facing real players. Every round is different, every match or lap. There is a new obstacle or challenge, and there is a form of randomness. Sure, it's following the same rules, but it's not like you're in a Groundhog Day where every move is the same. Every opponent does the exact same thing over and over again. This isn't the case, sure, I get it. But the corner of the track is never changing. That map will never change. That bomb location will never change. The only thing that does is the choices and actions of your opponent. Not everybody likes competition. competition. Not everybody wants to jump into a game and have to play other players just to get variety. Some of us just want to relax and enjoy a game without anyone else. And saying that loot games have to have this to keep them interesting isn't a selling point. We humans want novelty, we want variety, we want something new, a change, a challenge. It's why so many people want more money, want stuff. We want to consume, to buy, to have, to progress. We want new because it's exciting. We seek novelty. Without it, humans wouldn't progress. We wouldn't be where we are now without one of us thinking, oh, how can I create that? What's over there? Can I reach the top of that tree or mountain? It's why open world games are so appealing. Just the idea of exploring a new world is a novelty. Something new around every corner or biome. Without wanting new, different, better, we would stay stagnant and we would be stuck in a purgatory, or worse, be forced to do the same thing over and over again because it's in our very nature. Plot twist, it isn't, and I would like nothing more than to get that boulder up the top of the hill and be done with it. There is nothing new when it comes to the majority of loot game mechanics. Many of the most popular games out there are just digital sports games. Just like professional, local clubs, school teams, it's just a bunch of friends, rivals or acquaintances playing each other. And video games have just put what we could do at our local park into a digital format assembled so everyone around the world can play it too. Sure, some things are more out of reach, like, getting into a Formula 1 car or a plane, but many games that take on a Sisyphus mechanic are just what is already out there in the real world. You could argue that CSGO isn't possible to play in the real world, but with a little imagination, paintball or airsoft is just that. War games without the consequence of death or real harm. Any game that is simple requires loot mechanics like chess, card games, racing, anything in the Olympics. Think of games like Space Invader, Pac-Man, Street Fighter. They all have one main component, one goal, one task. And it's very simple. Sure, you can dress up the game, have all the flashy lights and newest graphics, but the core component, the core goal is very simple. Nothing new, nothing innovative. Something about loot games, a simple game with no ending. You can get lost in them for hours. Like I did here with this game. The simple act of placing city elements in dystopia, cyberpunk world, a game I would never have thought of playing. Here I lost all sense of self, place and time. I got lost in it, this world, and almost felt like I was in contentment by accident. This is why we play most games, regardless of loot mechanics. We want to get lost and immerse ourselves in whatever we're playing. That's just a sign of a truly good game. Competitions involving racing, getting to the finishing line first, be it a one-way course or a track that goes around and around again. I don't think you can argue that racing game isn't a loop game. Hell, a track is the very thing, a loop. And for many of us, going around and around again, well, no thanks. All simple games take on some sort of loop mechanic. That doesn't mean that they are fun or enjoyable, and that still doesn't tell me why people play them again and again. Sure, a game can be enjoyable, fun, you can play whatever your heart desires. But don't expect something new when it comes to a game that represents Sisyphus' existence. Because the very nature of a Sisyphus game is to never change. What deeper truth emerges when both arguments are considered? We can argue that all games have some form or factor of these, and they are not exclusive to just Sisyphus type mechanic games. This is true, but that doesn't mean they are any less reason to play them, to enjoy them, to try them. Comfort. We play games again because they give us a sense of comfort, like watching your favorite TV show or series again, or that movie or album. We like predictability. We like things that don't shatter our expectations, and doing something a second time or a third time or 100th time gives us just that. For some of us, playing a game again lets us shut off our brain so we can go on autopilot, almost like a meditative state where you react, do and play without conscious thought. We zone out, we hit the flow state, and this is why we enjoy playing games on a loop. But unlike Sisyphus, we have choice, and it's this very action of choice that gives us autonomy, that makes it enjoyable rather than suffering. Sure, these types of games aren't for everyone, I get that, but let me ask you this: how often do you replay a game that you have finished? How often do you press restart? Compare that to a Sisyphus type game that has no ending. How often do people continue to play those types of games? I argue that the journey, the striving is where the fun lies. Not the end itself, but striving to get there and failing and getting back up. Loot games do this perfectly, and that is why we play Sisyphus games. That is why we enjoy the mechanics that make up a loot game. We enjoy its comforts, its challenges, and knowing it will always be there. What makes a Sisyphus game so fun? We do. We make it fun.